get rolling. All right, folks, welcome to our 2021-2022 winter season unified indoor bocce preseason. This is the district rep briefing. Again, this is all the information that you will need to help prepare your coaches for the season. And again, a lot of this stuff will also be found in our indoor bocce coach resource guide that will be coming out. Again, we will have a district host manual that will come out that'll have resources for you. And then as we get closer to the state tournament, we will also have an event guide, which has all the state tournament information that you'll need as well. But this is the starting point for the season. The agenda for tonight, main thing that we'll talk is really administrative stuff, season timeline, checklist for things that you'll need, coaches trainings, district layouts, all that kind of stuff, the generic stuff that you're used to seeing. Any specific rule updates or reminders that you'll need, which there really aren't any in regards to bocce. So again, the main thing we'll tend to focus on is the administrative stuff so that you can set your coaches up for success. Again, administration. So the main thing, and what I did with strength and conditioning at the beginning of the week is when I send out the slides for this, I will also send an individual PDF of this slide of the season timeline. So then you can print that. I have mine hanging right above my desk over here. You can put it wherever you want, but I like to keep a printed version right in front of my face for the deadlines so I don't miss anything, so I can support you guys, and Katie can help support you guys as well. Again, the first day for winter practice for sports through MPSSAA is November 15th. It's wild. It's like 2 weeks from now. We're going to have our state tournament for tennis, and the week after winter sports start. It's a whirlwind. It always is. You guys know that. First eligible play date is December 6th. I believe that's a Monday as well. And so that's when you can start having your competitions between schools within your district, get some competition opportunities in. The first main SOMD due date that you will need to know is Friday, December 17th. The main initial paperwork is due to us. That includes the application of participation, which is your basic form for student athletes participating. 1 page, easy to fill out, parents sign it, good to go. The CDW form, which is our communicable disease waiver form. It is our COVID waiver form, essentially. And it will be something that's added into Special Olympics across the board paperwork, nationally, internationally, forever at this point. That's a student signs it, parent signs it, done. And then the last thing that needs to be turned in on the 17th is the team roster declaration form. That's just your team.
All right, I'm not gonna be able to hear Zach Brown.
That's just whoever is on your team. It doesn't need to be specific pairs. It doesn't need to be anything really definitive towards what your competition setup is going to be for postseason. Then after that, which will help you get to your postseason teams, is your team assessments start to be administered. If you have your team together and you've had some practices and you've had some competitions and you want to do assessments earlier than the 20th, we're not going to stop you. The earlier you can do it, the better. Realistically, the 20th is kind of the last day to start them, I would say, more than it is the first day to start them. So get your assessments in as early as you can, but make sure you do them at least before that holiday break that most schools go on. The last SOMD major due date that you're going to need, at least for your standard paperwork, is going to be your postseason registrations to SOMD by January 9th. Those are just your forms saying, these are our teams, these are our pairs that we've put together. They are the ones that if this team advances to the state tournament, these are the groups and how they're set up. Other than that, that's all that is. Last thing is, for the most part, we're probably looking at district tournaments scheduled somewhere between January 20th and February 3rd. February 3rd is the last day that we want a tournament scheduled, because it makes turnaround time extremely tough, anything after that. Again, the state championship is the 9th, so it's only 6 days after that. So we want to be able to get you your brackets and your teams that are advancing to the state tournament as soon as possible. If you have an issue with the district tournament, you need to have it before the 20th. You need to have it, right at the 3rd or something like that. Whatever may happen in between. Again, just communicate with Katie and I. I think that was the biggest thing that we took away coming out of, or at least going through the end of the fall here, is constant communication. We get that things are going to change all over the place with students, especially now. We're going to have students that are quarantined. You're going to have students that go on, close contact quarantine. You're going to have coaches that end up on stuff. Holiday season is, Thanksgiving, Hanukkah, Ramadan. You have holidays throughout the whole winter here. So we understand, we get it. Just communicate with us. That's the biggest thing. Katie, anything you want to add on timeline, communication, outlook for the season based on this slide?
No, the only thing I put in the chat bar, so some of our districts have participated in fall tennis. If your athlete is also participating in bocce ball, they do not have to submit another application for participation because it's already in our system. They're good for a year.
Yep. Yes. That also includes the CDW. You just need to do one CDW for the year as well. So if you have an athlete that did fall tennis, they did an application for participation, they did a CDW, you just need to get them on a roster and a postseason roster. That's it. So that's great. I will also mention that again when we hit the paperwork again. That's something that we definitely should double down as a reminder. Does anybody have questions on the season timeline while we're here?
No, but Michelle Hill is amazing and said that Frederick County has their district tournament on January 19th. Is that what you're saying,
right.
Michelle?
That is what I'm saying, yes.
All right, so Michelle's off to a good start. Everyone's chasing Michelle for this season. All right, for district rep MVP of indoor bocce. No, now she feels the pressure. Now she feels the pressure.
Michelle, I'm right there behind you. I just set our dates today.
Hey, look at Tanisha. Tanisha's coming for you, Michelle. Watch out.
No, I'm not. I'm trying to be like you. I'm trying to be like you.
Oh, that's nice.
Just as we do all of our schedules in the spring, so that's why all of ours are set. So like I'll have all of our dates set for the following year in the spring. That's just how our athletic department does it.
That's nice. That's definitely helpful for us. Any other questions on season timeline? Questions, comments, concerns? I know we had conversations around this when it came to tennis when we talked in June. So I just want to make sure, again, we're on the same page and everything's looking okay and there's no major conflicts that anyone sees at the moment. Fantastic. Silence means we're in good shape. Coaches trainings. Coaches trainings are something that we are more than happy to come out and help with. There's kind of 3 formats to it. You can do a live webinar like we're doing right now. We understand during COVID times that not everybody wants to get together in person, especially assuming that most things will be indoors at this point when we kick to the winter season. So if you want to do a live webinar, hit stuff that's in our coach resource guide, update on rules, reminders of paperwork and when things need to be in and what dates. Perfectly fine coaches training. The second version of that is essentially an in-person version of that. And then when you talk about the third option is just including a on-court training of putting bocce balls in your coach's hands. I tend to be a more hands-on person, so I like that one. And with this, again, if you are interested in doing a training where we talk more about how the rules work and rolling bocce balls and actually getting into it, let Katie and I know, and we'll work out our schedules for someone to get out there and host a technical bocce training. Already worked out with Brad for their get together that they're having for Baltimore County next Thursday on the 4th. That I'm going to go out there and we're going to do a little bit of talking through bocce balls, put some coaches in a hallway, put bocce balls in their hands, talk through some of the questions that we have. Perfect way to go. Perfect setup and perfect start to your season. So again, if anybody else wants that as well, just reach out, just email Katie and I, and we will figure out a time to get out to you guys to help you out. I am going to put together a chart of preseason meetings and district tournament dates. We did something similar with tennis, and it helped me out a lot, except for poor Barb, that I thought her rain date was her actual tournament date. And Barb had a heart attack when I wasn't there for her district tournament. So I owe Barb one. And I will go on record saying that because Barb did a great job in the fall, and I will go on record saying I owe her one. So again, let us know when you're going to have your preseason meeting. Let us know when you're going to have your district tournament. The sooner we can get it on our calendar, the sooner we can prepare to come out and support you guys.
Do you need that information now?
Katie, when we send out this follow-up email with slides and the recording, how about we put the request in there?
That's fine. I mean, Michelle and Barb also put it in the chat, and I put it in a note on my phone. So,
Okay.
Tanisha, if you want to tell us, I'm not going to say no to you right now.
Gotcha. Thanks. I'll drop it in the chat.
Fantastic. All right. So you're a little bit of a DR checklist, right? Things that need to be completed going into the winter season here. Again, contact supervisors of athletics and or athletics directors. Make sure you know which coaches are coaching at each school. Get a regular season playing schedule put together, get your district tournament date and location put together. Those are definitely the key factors of setting good structure for your season and getting yourself out ahead as much as you can. Make sure any coaching vacancies that are open, try to push those and get those closed up and settled as soon as possible. I know that can be easier said than done sometimes, but the sooner you have coaches, the quicker we can train them and support them. In the Google Drive, which we still have, which we will still provide a link to, we will have our contact list. Pretty much we've just drug over what we had in past years for now, but if there's coaches to update or folks that are helping you in your district to update, let's get them on that list. So we have contacts for people in case anybody needs to reach out or touch base. Brad will kind of be populating a list of your folks across the board since you're new, but we'll get that working. Additionally, like I mentioned, you can find that on the password protected portion of the indoor bocce part of the website as well, which we will touch on in a little bit. And again, schedule and advertise your coaches briefing, let the coaches know when it's going to happen. Let us know when it's going to happen, and we'll come out and support you guys the best we can. Recruitment. If you are interested in our recruitment posters, we have some of them. I think we have some in the office. If not, the sooner you tell me, the sooner I can place an order and get you brand new ones regardless. So if you are interested in recruitment posters, please send me an email after this, and we will get you posters, whether it's me bringing them from the office or delivered directly to whatever location you would like them delivered. Again, you guys probably have other methods for recruiting student athletes in your schools that you've found that worked over the years. Deploy whatever you need to deploy, and let us know if there's anything we can do to support you there. Again, we tend to just have the recruitment posters as a very basic support system, but if there's something else that you need that you think may work, reach out. We'll figure out how to work it out with you. And then again, if you have an LSS person for your district helping you with the input of data for the GMS system, make sure they're ready to go. If anybody needs a training or an update on using GMS, let me know and I will get you set up in our system and get you trained. I do have to train Tim from Baltimore County. So if there's anybody else that needs to be trained on that as well, let me know. Any questions on recruitment or LSS, GMS, games management system information? Okie dokie. Our big fancy red slide that you can't miss. The biggest thing that you can take away from this slide is double check your paperwork. Make sure you have paperwork for everybody. Again, athletes that are participating, if they don't have stuff in from the tennis season already, need their application of participation into us at Special Olympics, need to have that CDW form into us at Special Olympics, and you need to turn in your roster. Again, we want to know who belongs to who on what teams, just so we can make sure when we take in the paperwork that we're not missing anybody, and definitely do your due diligence of double checking that yourself. The quicker you catch it, the easier it is to get it updated. We don't know all of your athletes as well as your coaches do. So again, work with your coaches, make sure everybody is on there, and make sure you have paperwork submitted for everybody. Again, the other thing that's really important is going in and making sure that all your people that are on your roster are in GMS. That includes coaches and student managers as well. One thing that I will say up front that I don't know we said for tennis up front is also remember that if you have paraprofessionals that are part of your team that will travel with your team to assist student athletes, make sure they're on there too. Get them signed up on your roster, get them done with their volunteer paperwork sooner rather than later, so you're not having to play catch up at the end of the season. Anything on there, Katie, that you want to hit again? Okay. So we're not going to sit on the forms forever. This is your application of participation form for athletes. It's a one-pager. It's their information up top with an emergency contact and such. Check off. In the main thing that I like to remind people of this form is if you are checking off any of the things in those boxes below, any of your athletes with intellectual disabilities will have something checked off in those left-hand gray boxes. Any of your unified partners that have IEP 504 status will have something checked in the two columns of white boxes, but not something in the gray box. If you are a student athlete that has an intellectual disability and you check something in the gray box, you can have a bunch of stuff checked in the white boxes too. Unified partners that don't have an IEP 504, nor are they intellectually disabled, they check no above those boxes and don't check off anything inside of there. And then again, participant signature, parent signature, good to go. Any questions on the application for participation? One pager, pretty simple. Fantastic. All right. Communicable disease waiver. This is the new form. Again, it's the main COVID form as of right now for Special Olympics, not just Maryland, but nationally, regionally for North America, international across the country and the world. There's 3 pages that you'll get in the CDW packet. The first and second pages essentially talks about the legal stuff of, what you're signing a waiver for. It also has a specific section where it talks about people in high risk categories and the participation. We are not excluding anybody that is high risk from participating. But again, we want to just remind them who technically falls under high risk. The only thing we need back for the CDW is the third page that the participant writes their name, signs a date. Parent writes their name, signs their name, signs a date. That's all we need back is the third form of the CDW. I have had questions, and I think Katie's answered questions throughout the fall of, we do a CDW of some sort for our district already for student athletes, coaches, so on and so forth. Unfortunately, you need to do ours too. Every organization at this point has their own disease waiver for COVID-19. I mean, I know people that are on base and work in different recreations down at PAX and Fort Meade and stuff like that need to sign one for there. They work in school, so they sign one at their school. They participate in our community program for Special Olympics, so they sign one for us. Like, there's people that are signing 5-6 of these things for everywhere they're part of at this point. Again, one thing I will also mention as of right now is for Interscholastic Unified Sports, we do not have any sort of vaccination mandate or status that Special Olympics Maryland is requiring. And again, anything that we ask you to do or require really is centered around the state tournament, not how you operate through your season. How you operate through your season is fully based on your county and district's protocols. Again, some schools are now starting with the MPSSAA winter season into vaccination mandates of some sort at a certain level. Some schools aren't. We do not have one for Interscholastic Unified Sports, and it doesn't seem like we will because of HIPAA reasons, so on and so forth. Questions, comments, concerns on the CDW form? fantastic. When I also ask for questions, comments, concerns, they can come after the webinar too. If you think it's something after, always feel free to email, text, call, smoke signal, however you want to communicate with Katie and I, reach out. We are more than happy to answer questions. And if we don't have an answer right away, we will find you the answer to get what you need. Last of the major initial forms for you is the team roster declaration form. Again, this is just what your roster is. This is just letting us know who's on your team, what team it is, and that they're participating in week-to-week training and in your district. There are some details. Read over these forms. They're pretty standard roster forms. There's nothing that's really trying to catch you or trick you. But again, just read them carefully and look for what the labels are for what we want you to fill in there. For non-student athletes is moved above our athlete roster. So your head coach or assistant coach or student manager, if you have paraprofessionals that are working with your team week in and week out because they're working with one of your athletes, put them in that top section. And then for the lower section, that's your student athletes. You've seen it before, most of you. Yes or no for a disability, circle one, you know, and it's pretty straightforward. We would like you to do it last name, first name. It's a little bit easier for our GMS people when they double check things and paperwork, because everything comes up in our system, last name, first name. That's the only main reason we ask for that format. And then again, these last columns really are set up to help your LSS or whoever's registering your individuals for the GMS system. Again, use them to support your input of data on your end to make your life easier. And we, again, appreciate you guys putting that extra effort in to get the form set up to make them as easy as they can be for everyone. Before I go into details about non-student athletes, any questions on application participation, CDW, and the roster, the team roster, essentially? Cool. All right. Again, if questions come up, throw them in the chat, ask them. If not, we will also answer questions after as well. So non-student athletes need a Special Olympics Class A clearance. Class A clearance for us is a background check that's done when you submit your volunteer application, and a protective behaviors training, which we've probably gotten down to about 20-25 minutes, if that. It was much longer in the past. It was much harder to access. We've trimmed that down. We have recognized the difficulty that caused for getting volunteers cleared. And then the last thing is non-student athletes also need that CDW form. So again, non-student athletes are your coaches, they're students that are participating as managers for teams, they're your paraprofessionals, they are yourself if you are a supervisor of athletics and you plan to attend the state championship or help out with a team, you should fill out that paperwork as well. So the best thing is that we used to have a thing where you had to do all these trainings, collect up all the paperwork, submit them to Dottie through coaches@somd.org. You can still do that if you like causing yourself headaches and losing a lot of time in your day. I don't think anybody likes that at this point. So now what you can do is you can go onto a website called Volunteer Hub, which we'll provide the link to, and you can do everything right on there through a simple login. You create a login, you go in, and all you have to do is click one button to go to the background check, fill it out, submit it. Protective behavior, click a button, watch the video for 15-20 minutes, submit it. And then CDW form, you can sign it right on there, submit it. So we highly recommend going through Volunteer Hub because you can get everything done in one shot. Again, if you want to go step by step, we're not going to go through these slides. You can go step by step and turn in all of this paperwork to coaches@somd.org. Again, if you like spending more time than you really need to on stuff, by all means, go ahead. But I will continue to recommend Volunteer Hub, where you can create an account. It also has the step-by-step for Volunteer Hub as well. Again, we're not going to go through all these. These are good reference slides. They do not need to be talked about. Again, 3 things that you need for Class A clearance: background check through the volunteer application, protected behaviors training, CDW. One note that you will see on the bottom here, if you have someone that's 17 years or younger, they do not submit a volunteer application form for a background check. We don't and cannot run background checks on anybody under 18. So there's a different form you submit for, say, a student manager is going to be on your team. It's a minor reference form. And the minor reference form it's essentially, name, age, the basic information stuff. And then it's like 2 or 3 references from somebody. It can be teachers, it can be friends of family, whomever. So not too many hoops that need to be jumped through there. That can also be done on Volunteer Hub as well. You just select that instead of the volunteer application. Again, if you need a refresher on entering stuff into GMS as LSS managers or district reps, let me know. We have guides that give you step-by-step instructions. I'd rather spend an hour, 2 hours with you on Zoom, sharing a screen and going step-by-step through it. I'm a more tactile learner, hands-on. So getting, 20 sheets of paper doesn't do it for me. Just, again, reach out, let us know what you need. We'll support you. We'll get you guys taken care of with any training and support you guys need. Again, just remember to take your time when you're entering stuff into GMS. And if you are confused on how to do something, it's better to stop, send me an email, send me a text or whatever. I'm pretty good at getting back regardless of what time it is. And getting an answer on how to do something right instead of guessing, because guessing tends to make everybody have to double back and do double work. So feel free to ask questions. There's no dumb questions. GMS can be tough at times. I'm more than happy to help. If not, Mike Sarnowski is like the GMS guru, and he is more than happy to help as well. Katie's getting there. She's on her way, slowly but surely. Again, another reference slide. This is all stuff that we've talked about, Class A clearance, so on and so forth. Talking about LSS registration manager responsibilities, some best practices. Again, all stuff that you can go back and read through, not stuff we have to talk about 2-3 times over and over again. Resources. So this is where some of the important locations of information come. We are still going to keep our Google Unified Indoor Bocce folder. It's going to be available. The link is here. When you get the slides, you'll be able to click it. But the other thing that we are recommending is our IUS Indoor Bocce resource page. That is directly on our website. It can be accessed 24/7. And the only time you need to type anything in to get access for anything is if you're going to the district rep / LSS manager protected page. And I'll share that password with everybody when we do the follow-up email. But you can find absolutely everything on there, from this season's coaches rules and resource guide to the Special Olympics International Bocce specific rules, the Special Olympics International coaching guide, which has a lot of great tips and tricks for teaching your athletes different methods of bocce. If you have an athlete that's stuck, that's not understanding something, that guide's an excellent resource for finding out a way to help that athlete get over that hurdle and move to the next step as a bocce player. But again, you'll get these slides. You'll be able to click on both of these links to get essentially all the resources you'll need for the season. Again, another slide talking about the resource page, all sorts of stuff you'll find on there, quick reference guides for all sorts of things. One of the important things that you will find on there, it's not this slide, but I will mention it. One important thing you will find on the resource page are the logos for the shirts that you put on the chest, on shoulder, or on the back. You will find those on there, and that's the easiest way to get them if you're ordering uniforms. Again, reminder, if you are in need of the recruitment posters, that's the word for it. If you are looking for the posters, we have big poster size. There's legal paper size. I think we have one formatted for regular 8x11.5 printer paper. You can either reach out to me and we will put the different versions of them also in the Google Drive and on the resource page. So you can access them in a bunch of different ways. You can print them if you want, or we can actually get them printed as posters, the big ones that you put on the wall. And the nice thing is, again, you see that white blank spot down at the bottom. You can write in your own contact information. If we place an order, we can also potentially have them print that directly on there. Again, just reach out and let me know. COMAR regulations. I am not a COMAR expert. I will tell you that right now. But we will run through these relatively quickly. Again, they apply to Interscholastic Unified. The main thing is the conflict of participating at a varsity or junior varsity level in the previous season. You cannot participate in Interscholastic Unified sports in the next season. Good news is, ain't a problem for Bocce. Bocce is not a varsity or a junior varsity sport in the state of Maryland, from what I understand. But unless there's a secret underground Bocce league going on somewhere, you're good to go. We tend to see this come more into play with tennis in the fall for those individuals that want to play varsity spring tennis, or we run into it with track and field. So not really an issue for Bocce though. Again, that's the main rules for COMAR off the top. District layout. The map has actually changed, and for a very good reason. We have Baltimore County joining us. They will be District 12 up at the top. So I'm happy to announce that. I'm grateful that Brad and Tim are going to join us, and we're going to get some Bocce going on in Baltimore County. It made me break out the good old map and redraw lines. So that was fun. And so, again, if you have any questions or want to figure out who's in what districts to communicate, reach out for information, use the coach contact and district rep contact list that's in either the Google Drive or the district rep /LSS manager page on the website. And again, a lot of the times, if you have a question, there's probably a district rep that's done something one way or the other. They may be the best resource to reach out to. I will tell you guys a lot of the times questions that you may have for us, if it isn't a Special Olympics Maryland specific ruling or protocol situation that we have to deal with, if it's a sports specific thing, there's times we've asked other district reps. Katie and I did it probably once or twice this fall too. You guys are as much of a great resource for one another as we are for you, and as you are for us as well. Rules, updates, and reminders. Before we move into this, any of the administrative stuff that anybody has questions on? I know the paperwork conversation is long and treacherous. It's not as bad as the conversation seems to be, I promise. Okay. Rules, updates, and reminders. Roster size, minimum of 4, maximum of 8 players. For a state tournament bound competitive roster, at least 50% of the roster should be players with intellectual disabilities and or other disabilities, and the remaining members should be unified partners. With that said, we saw throughout the fall with tennis that there are going to be some teams that have extra unified partners, have extra athletes. There is flexibility to get them involved in different ways. They can 100% participate in unique ways for district tournaments. You might have 4 extra unified partners that want to play that can't be paired up with athletes with intellectual disabilities or other disabilities, and you want to get them to play for district tournament. They can play as a team of 4. That's totally fine. They can play as an exhibition. They're not going to score points towards their team advancing to the state tournament, but that doesn't mean you have to exclude them from play. They're still part of the team, and they're still a valuable part of the team. They just contribute in a different way. And again, there's also things to think about. If you have an excess of unified partners, something very strongly to think about is leadership opportunities as well. You can have unified partners step in a variety of leader and roles. we'd like to see more teams have captains to them. Again, have an athlete that has a disability and one without be a captain. Have unified partners lead different parts of your trainings and practices, all sorts of things. Again, for the lineup for frames too, we like to remind folks, teams lineup during each frame must consist of 2 players with a disability and 2 without a disability, 2-to-2 ratio. Or you can go 3 players with a disability and 1 without a disability. Remember, it's a makeup of at least 50% of the roster with an intellectual disability or a different type of disability. So you can have 75% of the roster be individuals with a disability of some sort, and you're good to go. Again, greater than 50%. That's as far as my math capabilities go, though. So I will not get any deeper than that when it comes to math. Questions on roster sizes. I know there's been questions in the past there. Okay. Again, if you have questions that pop up, and again, questions at rosters may pop up more towards when assessments and team composition actually starts happening. So I get right now, it all makes sense, but until it's put into practice where you have students standing in front of you, it may not mean a whole lot, quite honestly. Again, reminders for regular and postseason play. Again, make sure everyone's getting enough training opportunities. We want to make sure that our student athletes are training, ideally multiple times a week if they're at school. I know that doesn't always happen. I know weather's going to happen. I know things are going to pop up throughout the winter. But again, get them as many opportunities to get into training and competition scenarios as possible. So then when they do go to the state tournament, it's not a foreign experience to them. Again, we want to make sure we set up our student athletes for success and expose them to different environments that allows them to be successful no matter where they go to compete. Again, number of teams of each district will be allocated in advance to states will be determined by the number of teams that are competing for each district. Going off of tennis, just as an example, Anne Arundel's our biggest tennis county. They have, I want to say, somewhere between 16 to 20 teams that participate in tennis. So for the state tournament, they got 4 teams that advanced. I think Baltimore City, Frederick, Washington County, I think a lot of them are in that 4, 5, 6 teams. They ended up getting 2 for tennis to advance. So again, if we will make sure you get allotments to the state tournament based off of the numbers of your teams training, that's proportional, that makes it worthwhile for those teams to train. Question from Brad: if a team has more than 8 members, can they attend on the bench with their team but not deemed eligible to play? So if a team had, yeah, Katie, you want to hit that?
So, and I apologize, guys, I have a really bad cold. So Brad, what would happen is that you would actually potentially create 2 different teams, and you would talk with the people when they go to the different matches and say, hey, I have this team that needs to play and this team that needs to play. And generally coaches will figure out a way so that everybody can play that night.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So
if that makes sense.
So if you have a team of 10, then again, minimum of a team can be 4 on a team. So if you have 10, you can do 5 and 5 or 6 and 4. But again, we want the main reason for the maximum of 8 and the minimum of 4 tends to come into play with scoring opportunities and how we determine, how each team scores and how many points they get as a team instead of just doubles and groups of 4. So that's what it really comes down to when it comes to the cap. It's not about, how we compose the teams specifically. It's more for the scoring opportunities, if that makes sense. Yep. Cool. And then again, for division at the state tournament and realistically for district tournaments as well, using their assessment scores on the post-registration form is how we will determine it. What we also did for tennis this fall that helped out in setting up district tournaments is once we get all those postseason forms in, I went and made a massive spreadsheet with tabs for each district and went team by team of their pairs and, what their assessment score was, what ball color level they played for tennis, which doesn't happen with bocce. And then sent that back out to the schools. And then you guys could sort it by what their assessment score was, what school they were from, if they were a exhibition team because they were both partners, all that kind of stuff. So I'm hoping we will have enough time to do that with bocce as well. Vetting postseason registrations. I will say this is trickier than most years, I would assume, because of the COVID situation. We had a handful of situations, potentially even more than a handful of situations with tennis this fall, where people turned in postseason rosters. They looked good at the deadline in September. District tournaments started happening. People started getting quarantined for COVID. People started getting sick. People started getting pulled out of school. And their rosters ended up all sorts of crazy. So do your best when you submit your postseason roster on January 11th to have your team set up as you would want them to advance to the state tournament. With that said, as we get to district tournaments, as things come up, especially with COVID-related situations, we will remain flexible as long as you remain flexible, and we will figure out how to get your teams set up in a manner that is, gets them where they need to go and compete at a equitable level, especially at your district tournaments. As long as it's not going to hurt another team and or other district from advancing, placing, whatever it may be, we will be flexible and work with you. Katie, anything to add on that when it comes to postseason registrations?
No, sorry, no, just please make sure that your coaches have entered in all the information and that we don't have to turn around and get it back. That's more what gunks up the mix, is just the return. Like if we have to say, hey, you're missing this paperwork or this kid is missing this or this, it's just easier once if everything was submitted like with all I's dotted and T's crossed. That's all.
Yep, for sure. Just a reminder, if you're setting up multiple teams, set them up with numbers, not with colors, with mascots, whatever it may be. It's way easier for us to track just from a visual and basic processing standpoint if they're just, Catoctin High School 1, Catoctin High School 2. It also helps when we put them into GMS when it comes to divisions and how GMS sorts and files things for reports. It likes numbers more than words. That's just simply what it comes down to. GMS is very much a database's database at heart, and it does numbers real good. Don't do words real good. It's just unfortunately how it is. Uniforms. So again, we will have access to the logo for the Unified Sports logo on the website and in the Google folder. Please make sure you have that on your uniforms. To be eligible for the state tournament for teams advancing, they need uniforms that have the logo on it. If you are having issues getting uniforms and need help with that from either a capacity of funding and or a person to do your uniforms, reach out. Please let me know. That's something that we can definitely assist with and help with. But again, if you don't communicate that, we just never know. Additionally, plan ahead for uniforms as soon as you can. I know that's super hard because you potentially don't even have your teams fully together until end of December. But right now, based on our main distributor who does uniforms and our management team shirts and all that stuff, they're telling us minimum of 6 to 8 weeks for orders. We are trying to make that better. Supply chain issues continue to be an issue for every industry. So again, try to get ahead of uniforms as much as you can. If you have issues, if you need help, please reach out sooner rather than later. Don't be afraid to reach out because you're scared for some reason or you're worried or something. Just reach out. We'll help you. We'll get you taken care of. We want to make sure your athletes are set up for success like we've talked about with everything else. again, step one, talk to your athletics director, your supervisor of athletics. Some schools have the money and support to do it through their own means. If not, reach out to me. We are more than happy to help. There are very rare circumstances where we may not be able to. That tends to be you've reached out way too late, more than it's a finance or resource thing. A look ahead, just some last minute preparedness kind of stuff. Katie, do you want to touch base on this as a sports chair?
Sure. So, unfortunately in the fall, like just because everything was so crazy, this kind of fell by the wayside. I'm going to be a lot more diligent with it here in the winter, especially with Baltimore County, because we're getting you up and running. I will set up individual times with each district rep to just do a 5-minute phone call. If you prefer me doing text messages, that worked for some of my district reps this past season. Just some way to get in touch with me. Some of us were really in communication a lot, so that's why I didn't call, because I'm like, you emailed me today, I think we're good. But this is what I plan to do. It's just going to be a general check-in, see if you have any questions. But that doesn't mean just wait till then to ask questions. Please, you can send emails. I may be able to answer them during the day. Most often, I'm not able to answer them till later at night. And then if it's a question, I have to wait for the next day to get back from Zach. So that's a little bit harder, but I will definitely be setting up those times as well.
Fantastic. Yeah. Again, please work with Katie to communicate. That's my big word that I'm pushing through all the sports as we've gotten through the fall is just communicate. Continue to communicate. Good, bad, indifferent, whatever it may be, just keep communicating. We'll get it all worked out no matter what's coming up. All right. So that is pretty much the end of the road here. Is there a patch available that could be sewed? Yes, I know our distributor can do a unified sports patch that you just iron on and or sew on, whichever you prefer. If that's the way you are looking to go for uniforms, again, reach out. We can help you get that taken care of. I would like to think most embroidery places can do a standard embroidery patch for those logos as well. So if you have a company that you do uniforms through, they might be able to take care of you as well. As long as you have that logo on the chest, the arm, or the back, and as long as it's not drawn on with a Sharpie, that's fine with me. There are plenty of ways that you can go. Great question, Brad. Other questions? Again, this is the end of the road for our slides presentation. We are open for business, though, when it comes to asking questions. All right, well, if nobody's got questions, I ain't gonna make you hang around for no reason. Katie, any closing remarks that you have for the team here?
No, I'm just excited that I have bocce ball, and I actually did coach bocce ball in Prince George's County for 6 years. So I do have a good grasp of what's going on, unlike track and field.
All right, well, again, I'm not going to keep you guys forever. We'll get out of here. Thank you guys for everything you've done up to this point. Thank you for everything that you're going to continue to do. Again, communicate. I'm going to keep pushing communication this whole time. If you have questions, reach out. We're going to support you. We're going to take care of you guys. And I'm excited to get around and start seeing some bocce. Again, really excited for the bocce season like Katie is, and we will see you guys at some point soon. All right, folks, have a great night.
You too. Thanks.